Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother.
And my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of my people, back to the beginning.
Lo, they do call to me. They bid me take my place among them.
In the halls of Valhalla, where the brave may live forever.
These are the voyages of the starship Ragnar. Her mission to explore the Shackleton Expanse for new friends and allies, and to fearlessly peer into that final frontier.
All right, and welcome everyone to Session 1, Episode 1 of Season 3 of Star Trek Valhalla, a Star Trek Adventures actual play run by myself, Dare Wolf, and 5 of my very dear friends who I've missed very much. I've seen a couple of them over the last month or so, month and a half, since we had our Season 2 finale. Also a shout out to Aaron for being the guest star on that one. He did an absolute fantastic job. I was nervous. I was real nervous walking into that one, but I think the crew did a great job of defending their captain's decisions against a world-eating planet monster thing, as it were. Yeah, but with that being said, as is tradition, we're just going to go around the table, have everyone reintroduce themselves, and then we're going to have a quick intro from one of the NPCs, Andrea Bronson, that is going to give us a little bit of an idea of what the crew's been up to. And then I think we're going to visit with the crew and hear from them what they've been up to over the past year in game canon, as it were. But we're going to go Brian, Symbol, Sidereal Day, Drew Baca, Charles Warren. Brian, Captain, take it away.
Hello, I am Brian. I'm at MindOverBrian on both Twitter and on Twitch, although on Twitch I spell it with a 0. And I am playing as Traso, the captain of the USS Ragnar, a Betazoid who has forsworn his telepathic gifts.
And I am Symbol24. I am also on Twitch under Symbol24. And I play Lieutenant Alden Paris, the science officer aboard the Ragnar. And I'm also part of the Great Paris family. So that's a thing.
Good evening, I'm Sidereal Day, and I play Commander Ajay Shahira, the Bajoran First Officer and Chief Medical Officer.
Wait, whoa. How can you be both first officer and chief? I'm just kidding.
We do this every season, my
every
friend.
season. It's all right. Whoa, wait a minute here. No, it's fine. We're good. Drew Baca.
Hi, I'm Drew. I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Krev Glosh, the Tellarite Chief Engineer.
Brilliant. Charles Warren.
I'm Charles Warren. I play Ensign Zed, the Ferengi Chief of Security and Operations Officer aboard the USS Ragnar.
Absolutely fantastic. And of course, the man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce myself anyway because I'm the game master and like to hear myself talk. I, of course, am Dare Wolf, the game master, the weaver of tales, the spinner of tales, lots of tales, as it were. But without further ado, we're going to open our first scene with an exterior shot of the Ragnar. We see the Ragnar traveling at medium warp, maybe warp 4, warp 5, through the dense orange and sort of reddish cloud that is the Shackleton Expanse. The ship itself appears to be in pristine condition. There's new plating. We see that it looks like the insignias have been freshly painted on, and it just looks quite beautiful, quite magnificent, just traveling through this cloud. You can see the cloud just kind of rolling off the bow of the ship. As we zoom in towards the first deck, that kind of viewport, the bridge of the Ragnar, we travel through the opening, we travel through that sort of view screen where we see Lieutenant Paris at his station working on whatever it is he's working on. We see Captain Traso sitting in the captain's chair next to First Officer Commander Ajay. They appear to be having a conversation about something. It seems very lighthearted, very calm. No one seems to be up in arms or feeling, I guess, out of sorts. As we travel back behind the two of them, we see Ensign Zed in the middle of a conversation with one of his security officers. It seems not heated, but it seems the security officer has some concerns. Ensign Zed is doing his best to calm him down, but Ensign Zed, being the sort of nervous gentleman that he can be, it seems that they're almost kind of starting to feed off each other, and it's becoming a little bit more and more, I would say, loud as the captain and the first officer turn and face back towards them. But as we zoom through the ship, we travel down in towards the center of the ship, where we see the warp core, we see the engineering bay, we see not Lieutenant Commander Krebs' front, his face, we only see his feet and his posterior, as his head is shoved way up underneath a console, working on God only knows what. But as we pan over from him, we see Andrea Bronson. She is the petty officer, first class, kind of a almost a second kind of in command with Lieutenant Commander Krev. She's been working very closely with him, and we see her look back over her shoulder in the direction of Lieutenant Commander Krev, then look back to her console where she appears to be typing a kind of personal log or maybe just some notes to herself about what's been going on. Petty Officer, First Class, Andrea Bronson's personal log. It's been roughly a year since Captain Traso was, well, put under what I feel was a undue and unjust, well, he was brought to court. Things were strange for the 6 months he was gone. The Ragnar spent much of its time near Starbase 123, sort of as a kind of, well, glorified transport vessel. We really weren't allowed to travel more than several light years from the base, unless it was under very strict observation. That, of course, made Lieutenant Commander Krev itchy, I suppose would be the term. Ensign Zed has been doing a fantastic job of keeping the crew in line. It seems that, I don't know, perhaps it was something to do with, well, the events with the base and Chronos Station, or maybe computer, delete that part. Commander Ajay did an absolute fantastic job of leading the crew while the captain was gone. Everyone knew that the captain was to return, but everyone treated her with respect. She's proven herself not only a wonderful command officer, but also a very competent doctor. I'm pleased to serve under her and to know she has our health in her hands. Lieutenant Paris has been tinkering with something. I'm not exactly sure what he's tinkering with, but I think he's been spending too much time with Lieutenant Commander Krev. He tends to ask for permission, but not be specific with what permission he's asking for. Maybe that's something I should learn from Lieutenant Commander Krev. A computer, delete that last part again. We find ourselves now, well, back in the Shackleton Expanse. We've been exploring for roughly 6 months. Things are going well. We've made some new contacts, formed some potential new alliances with, well, new species and different planets. And as of right now, I'm to understand that, well, we're to meet with a very interesting species. I believe the term or the name of the species was... Wait, I have it in my notes here. The Kritis? Kritis? Kritis. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. But they're a kind of feline species. Not dissimilar to, well, the feline species we already know and have come to support as part of the Federation. Oh dear, I'm rambling again. Oh, yes, absolutely, Lieutenant Commander. I'll be there in just a moment. Computer, end log. And we're going to open our first scene back on the bridge of the Ragnar, where we see the captain, we see the first officer sitting in their respective command chairs. They are, talking about, well, why don't you guys fill me in? What are you currently discussing in this moment?
Just the captain and the first officer?
Well, you can jump in too, Ensign Zed, if you so choose. Entirely up to
Oh,
you
no,
guys.
I'll leave it to them first.
Yeah. What's on your
The
mind?
description was lighthearted, huh? And that last planet we managed to find in this orange cloud. No offense, Captain, but I'm getting rather sick of all the orange again.
But it very much complements your complexion.
Well, it'll complement the mental breakdowns that I'm worried some of our officers will have, given how quickly certain people might have complained the first time we were just going through orange, orange, orange space. And she kind of glances over at Lieutenant Shear at the helm.
You see Lieutenant Shear has his both of his blue hands outstretched. He is drumming the console, and you hear this do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. He's like playing music with a control panel, and he doesn't seem to realize that he's doing it.
Yeah, I think he's fine.
Much better than the first time through here. Yes.
Well, I mean, a year in the orange void will do that to you.
Well, a year, even with the break.
From behind the chair where you guys are sitting, you hear one of the officers, lesser officers, the ensigns that specifically works under Ensign Zed, and she appears to be having a moment with him. This is SCPO Nevek, and she is Ensign Zed. I don't understand why you've chosen to become so lax when it comes to duty rosters. I understand that we're traveling through orange clouds constantly, and that things aren't, well, as dangerous as they've been in the past. But if past experience should teach us anything, Ensign said, is that we need to be prepared at all times for chaos. There is constant chaos in the galaxy, and and she starts having a bit of a panic attack. She's like starting to have a little bit of a breakdown.
Wait. Perhaps you would like a glass of water. Or perhaps
Water?
sit down.
What do you think water's going to do? Do I look parched? Oh gods, have I forgotten to consume food? Oh geez, oh my lord. And she's having, this whole mental breakdown thing you've been talking about, Commander Ajay.
Right.
You think you might be witnessing it.
Excuse me, Captain, I'd better go.
I think you had.
Ajay will get up and round over and brief hypo from behind.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Ensign Zed. I think I'll take possession of your minion for the time being.
Thank you. May I ask you a quick question, though, before you go?
Of course, Ensign.
According to this report, we are en route to visit a feline species called the Cretus.
Yes, that's...
If you remember, I had a rather violent allergic reaction to the cations on board once I first arrived on the Ragnar. Do you think that there's any chance that I might also have a similar reaction with these Cretus? I would certainly hate for my allergic reaction to upset diplomatic proceedings.
Perhaps it would be for the best if you had someone else go first while I figure out how similar their fur is to the Cations. That way I can better synthesize an antihistamine routine for you.
Thank you, Commander Ajay. Yes, of course. I think that Mr. Valles would be an excellent substitute while I stay here aboard the ship.
Then we'll consider it done, and I'll do my best to get that antihistamine up and running. But yes, good point, Ensign. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, and thank you, Commander.
In the forward section of the bridge, we see Ensign Minerva. We see her spin around and actually address Lieutenant Paris. Lieutenant Paris, are you picking up these readings? It seems to be, well, potentially a ship on long-range sensors. May I send them to your console?
Please do.
I'm I'm gonna have you roll the first roll of season 3. Super excited. This is gonna be a difficulty 0. It's just gonna be a control science to analyze the sensor readings. Dun, 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 dun.
Can I
Yes.
counter with a control con
Go on.
so that I can use my starship expertise?
You know what? I'll allow it. It's season 3, episode 1. I'll let you bend the rules a little bit. That's fine. I like it.
It's not a talent. It's not a focus. It's a talent, by the way. So
Totally fine. You have starship recognition, sensor use, anything like that. You would have a focus on this.
no, all I have is like small crafts or like
Small craft would work. Yeah.
Small craft? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. There you go. 2 successes. That gains 2 momentum for the crew. Lieutenant Paris, you're picking up a small warp-capable vessel. It is reading to have a warp core not dissimilar to the one aboard the Ragnar, but roughly 1/10 the size. And the vessel itself is of unknown design and unknown origin, but it's about a size and a half the size of a standard Federation runabout. So it's just a little bit bigger than your standard Federation runabout. Could likely hold a complement, if it's similar to a Federation runabout, of anywhere between 15 to 20 individuals. You're only picking up 1 life sign aboard, and it looks to be just outside of that communication range, but it's very quickly gaining and getting close. This could indeed be this doctor that you guys are due to meet, but it's entirely up to you if you share that with the captain.
So the starship expert gave me a bonus momentum that can only be used to obtain more information, or create an advantage with that ship. Just so you know.
Perfect. You have an additional question you'd like to ask. You are the science officer.
So repeat the last part. It's unidentified, and the energy signature was. Or did I misunderstand?
Nope. The warp core appears to be similar to the design of your warp core. Not the exact same, but working on the same principles. You're picking up 1 life sign, but it is a ship of unknown design and origin. You've never seen this type of ship before.
And because it feels like it's thematic, can I get its quantum signature to see if it's our own?
Absolutely. It is not your own. This is a alien vessel. And it seems...
from our universe.
Oh, yes. Oh, the quantum... Absolutely. It is from your universe. Absolutely. Okay. Yes. It is not a out of this world, out of this universe vessel. No time travel and quantum travel shenanigans during episode 1. We've dealt with that enough.
All right, Captain, we got readings of an unidentified ship with 1 person aboard. I send the information, of course.
On screen, open hailing frequencies.
You bring it up on screen. What you're seeing is this kind of... It's very smooth in its design. The vessel itself almost kind of looks like a gray, like the front part of a bullet. And then as it goes to the back, you start to see these kind of box-like protrusions that start to kind of stick out the back, where it almost looks kind of like either almost like a geode on the back side of the vessel, and then it curves back. So there's this kind of like cylindrical section that's all geode-like, and it's almost kind of sparkles against the gas of the Shackleton. And as it gets to the back, you can see these red kind of streams of energy that seem to be propelling it forward. Very similar to the nacelles of the Ragnar, but of a reddish color versus this the blue color that is that from the Ragnar. Well, purple at this point. Excuse me. I should rephrase that since they've turned it purple.
What is its combat capabilities appear to be?
Fantastic question. So the vessel itself appears to be very well armed. it could likely, based on the readings and the weapons readings that you're picking up, it could likely go toe-to-toe with the Ragnar. May not win,
Really?
but it could likely give it a run for its money.
Oh, Captain, I have found something of great interest. And I'll relay exactly what was relayed to me. Despite its small size, it may be able to go toe to toe for a time with the Ragnar. Quite
Well,
impressive.
Hailing frequencies, Mr. Z.
Aye, Captain. Hailing frequency is open.
Greetings, unidentified vessel. This is Captain Traso of the USS Ragnar. Please identify yourself.
Shh. Pardon me, Captain. Give me 1 moment. Just frequencies. Could you tell your to frequency 4625?
Are you able to clean that up?
There is quite a bit of interference, Captain. Lieutenant Paris, perhaps if you could assist me.
But of course.
Paris, I'm going to have you roll a control con. Difficulty of 1.
Just a 1 dice, or
Just standard check.
oh, okay.
Difficulty 1, standard 2d20. I know we haven't played in a while. We'll relearn the rules here. It's
No,
all good.
because we were talking about the assist. That's why.
Gotcha. No, don't need an assist. I'm going to have you just make the check to do it.
Does small craft still working?
I'd allow it. Absolutely.
There you go.
Beautiful. That gives you
All the
1
momentum.
additional momentum. You guys are looking pretty good. The static, this sort of, less than audible sort of connection starts to clear up.
Ah, yes, Captain. It is good to meet you. Are you able to raise video frequencies?
Put the communication on screen, please, Mr. Z.
On the screen, you see this sort of furry-looking cat-like person. His fur looks very similar to either a cheetah or some sort of tiger. Around his neck, he has this sort of gray, almost kind of looks rusted-like chain, this kind of copperous, chain. There is a large symbol on it. He wears what appears to be a leather jacket, and he has open shirts, kind of open. You can see his very furry chest. But as the image starts to appear on the screen, it starts to clear up. That sort of frown on his face turns into a very wide, toothy smile.
Ah, yes, you must be the captain of the Ragnar. I am Dr. Van Helsing. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am to understand that your species, or that is to say your crew, as we discussed via more standard communication, not face-to-face, is exploring the Shackleton for new friends, allies, and what was the phrase you mentioned? Boldly going where no one has gone before? Oh, no, wait. To seek new friends and allies. I forget. It was in the letter that you sent me. That is to say, the transmission. I get to rambling when I meet new people. A bit nervous. Again, a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine, I'm sure. Can we invite you aboard?
Oh, that would be mighty kind of you. It appears that I am still roughly 30 minutes from your location, but if you were to slightly adjust your course by 4 degrees to the port, we could likely turn that into 25 minutes.
Helm, adjust course to make a rendezvous?
Adjusting, Captain. Course adjusted, sir.
Well, we'll see you shortly, Doctor.
Very good. I have many questions for everyone aboard your vessel. I am on a bit of a research mission myself, learning about all of the strange things that exist in our universe. Hopefully we can share ideas and information, if that is acceptable to you, of course.
It's certainly possible. We'll have to discuss it when we meet.
Very good. Dr. Van Helsing out.
Boop. The transmission ends, and everyone turns around. The cation that is on the left-hand side, or your right-hand side, that is to say the starboard side of the vessel. This is Petty Officer First Class, and she was staring intently at the view screen the whole time, like almost as though she was entranced. And you see her ears are kind of perked up, facing forward, and her tail is doing this, like when a cat's excited sort of thing, flicking back and forth. You watch as the helmsman, Lieutenant Shear, turns over to his right, and you hear him go, Enya. Enya. Hey! I'm sorry, yes? What? Oh, yes, all systems reporting nominal, Captain.
Excellent. Mr. Mann, can you run a level 1 diagnostic on the Universal Translator? I find its choice of name for our doctor guest should be somewhat on the nose.
Absolutely, sir.
I must say, Captain, he seemed quite friendly. And a very attractive smile as well. His jagged teeth would make a Ferengi proud.
Oh, good to know.
He watches the petty officer's tail at the mention of very attractive smile starts to flick as though it's a little agitated over on the starboard side, and she's very, very focused on her console right now, typing away, running the diagnostic, as it were. Beautiful.
A cousin that you might not know of, Enya?
What? Oh, no, Lieutenant Paris. Captain, permission to, diagnostic complete, sir.
Permission to diagnostic complete?
Well, since I asked Ensign Moran for that, I don't know why you have a diagnostic for me, but go ahead. And Chief, what are you? You're a petty officer.
Oh, yes, sir. Minerva, Ensign Minerva, turns around, looks at the captain. Diagnostic complete, sir. It appears that is the best translation our computer could come up with. I found no errors.
Captain Traso looks back at Moran, who's the engineering guy. This is like, what? All right. Excellent.
Wait, you didn't say Minerva? Moran is over there, and you actually see him. He's got a data pad in his hands, and he's like, it seems like he's playing like a phone game on it. He's like, damn it, son of a... Damn it, stop it. Everyone's staring at him. All systems nominal, sir.
Oh, boy. All right, well. Helm confirmed the travel time estimate for me.
We are down to 22 minutes, sir.
Excellent. Lieutenant Paris, you have the bridge. I'll be in my ready room.
Hi, Captain.
And as the captain gets up and heads out of the bridge, we take the camera and we zoom back down to main engineering, where we see Lieutenant Bronson has made her way over to the good Lieutenant Commander Krev, who's got himself way up inside a console, working on something. And you see Petty Officer. You see Petty Officer First Class Bronson hand him something, the purple swirling that is the modified warp core, that whoom sort of noise that you've become accustomed to. You hear that. And she's going to lean down in and say, was it the... Wait, which tool did you need, sir? I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to hear you with your head literally up inside there.
It was the spanner.
Oh.
Number 3 spanner.
This is the number 2.
God.
Crap. All right. 1 second. Yep. Got it, sir. Let me just try to... and she, like, jabs you in the kidney, and then...
Ow!
Oh, sorry.
Ow!
Nope.
Ow!
Jabs you in the back.
Ow!
Nope, sorry. Nope.
Fine.
It's
no, here.
Nope, it's
here.
Nope. Up.
Here.
Pokes you in the side of the face. Oh, sorry. Nope. Here it is. Oh, there it is. And you grab it. There we go. It might have been easier, sir, if you just let someone wait.
Maybe it would be easier if you don't finish that sentence.
Aye, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
If I may
And
ask,
hold on.
and
And
yes, sir.
okay, got it. All right.
Yep.
And he starts worming his way out from underneath the console. All right.
I'm gonna have you roll me a fitness security difficulty of 2. to see if you can wiggle your way out of there. We're gonna have a little fun here. We're gonna have a little fun. Oof. That was good. That was good. I like it, I like it, I like it. Alright, so Lieutenant Commander Krev starts wiggling his way out, and Lieutenant Commander Krev, you get like 2 inches out of this panel that you've got yourself up inside, and it takes you about 2 more seconds to realize you're stuck.
Chief,
Sir?
can you grab my legs?
Sir?
Grab my legs and pull, Chief.
I don't... Oh.
Yes,
She looks
you
around
do.
main engineering, make sure no one's watching. She leans down gingerly. Breathe it out, sir. Suck it in. What? And she gives a nice little tug, and there's a clang, clang, choop, bang, and she pulls you out. You kind of ding your elbow on the corner of the panel that you were inside, but you get out, and no one else seems to have saw what just happened. Think anyone noticed, sir?
Noticed what, Chief?
Precisely.
Oh, good lass. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. By the way, were you planning to meet with this, well, new species? The one that they're calling...
I mean, I wasn't planning on it. They don't need me for anything, do they?
Shrug.
I'm too busy building up our redundant power systems.
Right.
Not...
Sir, I actually wanted to ask you about that. I realize I'm just a petty officer, first class.
Never just a petty officer.
Thank you, sir. Working on that ensign promotion. Fingers crossed, my review's coming up in a week. I assume you'll give me a... Never mind. I wanted to ask, don't you think 6 redundancies is just maybe a bit too much?
No.
Understood, sir. My shift ends in 15 minutes. Would it be alright if I slipped out of minutes early? Thank you, sir. And she turns on her heel and heads off, exiting out of
his gruff expression fades as she leaves.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, Lieutenant Commander Krev, you are in engineering. You've got a couple of your engineering officers and underlings, as it were, moving around, working, monitoring systems. What's Lieutenant Commander Krev going to move to next? What are you up to right now? What's the game plan?
Krev is going to start running diagnostics on the new secondary fusion reactor that he set up.
I like that. I'm going to have you roll a control engineering difficulty of 1.
I'm assuming I have some sort of focus that'll work on this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll take it.
Like it. I like it. I like it. So you've gained quite a bit of momentum, which is absolutely fantastic. As you're running the system checks, you are obviously oftentimes you're impressed with your work, but this is really good. Like, really, really good. What this is going to translate into in game terms is that if ever there is a moment where you are using power, so if we ever get into ship-to-ship combat, things of that nature, this is actually going to grant you 2 additional ship power on top of the ship power that you already have, which is pretty big. That's going to help you do things like activate weapons, recharge shields, make, evasive maneuvers such as the Traso maneuver, lots of different things like that. Maybe even the Paris maneuver if you need to jump through time. So there's a lot of different options that you have before you. But as you are finishing your diagnostic, perhaps you have even a slight smile on your face, you hear one of your officers. You hear these very purposeful steps, and you recognize them as Lieutenant Junior Grade Tapars steps. Captain, a moment of your time, if I could. Excuse
Captain?
me. Not Captain. Sorry.
Tapar, what do you need?
Yes, Lieutenant Commander, I have been
Spit
feeling...
it out.
Yes, forgive me. I have been feeling a bit... It's hard to put this, out of sorts of lately. I was wondering if I might be dismissed slightly early to go to medical bay.
Sure, everyone's doing it.
Very good.
He doesn't
Lieutenant
even
Commander.
look up.
Also, if it's not too... That is to say, Lieutenant Commander, permission to speak freely.
Always.
Have you considered meeting with the Chief Medical Officer as well?
He stops punching in commands into his console, kind of looks behind him. What for, Lieutenant?
Permission to speak freely, sir.
You already have it.
Your uniform is fitting a bit tighter than it has in the past. Is everything all right?
I'm going to pretend you didn't say that, Lieutenant.
Understood, Lieutenant Commander. She turns up. Permission to leave, sir.
I already gave it.
She turns on her heel and walks out. As she walks out, you watch as she gets to the door. She almost runs into it. The door itself seems to not react to her right away. You see her look up at it, look back down, does this kind of like rubbing motion with her hands, shakes it as though maybe she's suffering from kind of like her hand fell asleep or something. As she shakes it, you watch as the doors open. She walks out, takes a right, heads off down the hall. The doors close. I'd like to give it away. Go ahead, sir.
Krev leans down to his console and whispers, "Good girl."
I'd like to pivot back up to the deck one, and we're actually going to head over to the captain's ready room, where we are going to have a brief interaction with the captain and his, I believe his, not apprentice, perhaps we could call it. We haven't seen her in a while. We haven't actually seen her in a while, but we're actually going to bring her back into the game. And she has met with you. This is your weekly meeting that you have. She asks questions, digs in, gets those hard questions going, just so that she can learn really what it means to be a command officer. And this is Ensign Grelek. Captain, as always, I am grateful for the time that you allot for our weekly meetings. I wanted to begin with asking, well, your time away from the ship, it seems to have, in some ways, reinvigorated you. Is this something that you would recommend for command officers? Extended breaks?
Oh, I thought you were asking about time in prison. No, don't go to prison. If you can avoid it, don't go. On the other hand, I do recommend. Well, I think rather than recommending that you take extended vacations, I recommend that should the circumstance arise, you take advantage of it.
What is the benefit, Captain?
Well, I had an opportunity to explore hobbies that I haven't had an opportunity to explore in a while in a focused manner that perhaps being captain of a starship precludes.
The ensign tilts her head to the side. There is that kind of typical Vulcan, I'm pondering what you just said, but it doesn't quite register look on her face. Then responds. Perhaps like, or such as playing 3D chess?
Or gardening is also a...
How often would you recommend taking these extended leaves of absence?
Well, again, I don't recommend taking extended leaves. Skills can go, skills that go unused, such as captaining a starship, can can get rusty. I guess is how I would put it.
Are you saying that you feel rusty then, Captain?
I certainly did when I sat back in the chair 6 months ago.
And how are you feeling of present?
About as good as I usually do.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how does that feel, Captain? It begins to feel like an interrogation. You're not sure if it's intentional, but she is just peppering you with questions over and over and over.
A solid 7.
Not a passing grade, Captain, but acceptable. I wanted to ask, with regards to, well, this new species we are to encounter, is it wise to simply invite them aboard without any sort of true security precautions? Or am I missing something, Captain?
Well, against a crew of 230, I think a single individual might be enough that we could probably handle it. And it doesn't make us good, trustworthy allies if our first move is to arrive with shields up, weapons charged.
So, with regards to diplomacy, Captain, it comes to the question of not tipping your hand, I believe is the human phrase.
It's not tipping your hand implies that I'm keeping cards close to my chest, which isn't technically the case. We're very open. The Ragnar is not designed for war, and that is evident from anybody who scans her. However, there are precautions that I would take if the number of attendees of this little rendezvous were more numerous, that I don't feel necessary when I'm only meeting one of them. If anything, I need to work harder to ensure that the one feels more at ease despite being outnumbered and not threatened.
What number would signify or indicate a need for a show of force, Captain?
It depends on the species. With Klingons, it is important to ensure that they feel like they are respected. So, for example, any number of Klingons, you should behave as if they could immediately best you in combat. The Ferengi, 4 or more is typically a number that you want to beware of. They tend to have a high amount of automation on their ships. So 4 of them are usually capable of operating an entire starship alone. The Betazoid, for example, I would probably tend to underestimate due to them being my species, I suppose, and thus I would likely defer that judgment to our chief of security. The Bajorans are never to be underestimated, but it is important to make sure that they feel that you respect them without making them feel like you are threatened by them.
And as the captain continues to go down a list of different species, Ensign, the good ensign here, Gerlach, taking very studious notes, we fade back out of the captain's ready room, over back to the bridge, where we see, I believe Lieutenant Paris was left in command, correct? Mm-hmm. Very good. We pivot back over to the bridge. We have Lieutenant Paris in the captain's chair, looking super badass, as he often does. And you see she's actually returned over left. Ensign Zed, as the ship has gotten closer and closer, you've actually had a chance to start to perform some more security or tactical scans. I'd like you to go ahead and roll a control security. I'd like you to do just another scan on the ship's capabilities.
All right. Let's see.
Been a while since we've used these character sheets. This session 1, this episode 1, this is our learn how to play the game again session as well. It's all good. It's been like a month and a half.
So I have focuses of computers, investigation, and shipboard tactical.
For sure. And shipboard tactical would be perfect. Absolutely, man. Absolutely, right. 100%.
And so that was control plus security.
Yep, correct? Control security. You got it, man. Mm-hmm.
All right.
go. I'm ready. A little nervous. Beautiful. It was only a difficulty
Oh,
of 2.
nice.
You do gain 1 momentum back. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
you guys are
yes.
capped on momentum, which is not that you're going to need it or anything. I wouldn't ever make you guys use momentum, which is good. What's interesting, Ensign Zed, about this particular ship is I mentioned earlier this kind of bullet-like front, and then there's this kind of almost like geode-like midsection that seems to travel back, and then you have a bit of a smooth section and these red sort of beams, these like red nacelles off the back side of this vessel. You realize that that central part that looks like a geode is indeed literal geode rock. It appears as though this vessel has been built and almost like a ring has been placed over it. Now, the purpose of this geode, you come to realize as you begin to scan it, you're starting to pick up the ship itself doesn't have any standard type of shielding. You know, like you can always pick up the shield in any ship. It appears to actually have no shielding whatsoever. But as you are analyzing this geode-like structure, this substance on the exterior, what you realize is that the makeup, the composition of these particular geodes would have reflective properties for both phaser fire and pulse fire as well. So your standard sort of armaments that you see, these geodes would have the ability to either absorb or even potentially reflect. That's what you're starting to pick up and what you're starting to sort of maybe hypothesize in this moment. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that the actual weaponry on this vessel, you are picking up power sources that appear to go to where there would be weapons, but you're not exactly sure what the weapons are. There's no phaser banks. There doesn't appear to be any little pods where little pulse guns could pop out. You're not exactly sure how its weapons work, just that it seems to have power that would power a good armament. Like I said, it could almost go toe-to-toe with the Ragnar. Maybe not win, but it could probably give it a run for its money. Now, do you have any other specific questions about this vessel? You did get a really good check.
Zed would like to walk down over to the Lieutenant Paris is in the command chair, correct? So he's going to transmit the findings down to the arm display on the command chair. He's saying, Lieutenant Paris, I am unable to ascertain the exact nature of the weaponry aboard this ship. Look at these very interesting scans that I have made. Can you make heads or tails out of it? Is that the human saying?
Nice use of it.
Thank you. I've been practicing.
But Charles, you did have a question if you wanted for Wolf regarding.
Oh yes.
You get a free question.
So,
you want to pocket it? You can always pocket it for later. I'll let you do that. I'm a benevolent game master.
Yes, let me pocket that question then.
Pocket it. Put that. Whoop. Tip that little coat pocket. We'll move on from there. Lieutenant Paris, would you like to investigate further?
I will.
Very good. I'm going to have you give us an insight science difficulty of 2.
Security systems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This guy knows what's up. Somebody gave himself an extra focus. I know what you're up to. There you go.
I've had it since day one.
I don't believe it.
Security systems and bypasses. It's
beautiful.
Difficulty of?
Difficulty of 2.
Difficulty of 2. How about I use one of them?
I mean, you're sitting on a stockpile of 6, which is the maximum you can have. So I'm all for it.
I'm gonna use one of them momentums.
I love it. I love it.
Good thing I used it.
Very, very good. So you get that momentum right back, which is fantastic. Lieutenant Paris, what you identify is that this particular geode, it's not constructed, it's not manufactured. This particular geode is of natural origin. It appears to have been mined. It appears to have been formed into its particular ring, and the vessel kind of built into it, as it were. And again, it's got these kind of like purples and little like greens, and it's very sparkly. Sort of as the look, if it was next to a star, it would probably be glistening and bright. It may even, it may even create a kind of a luminous effect around it that would shield the vessel from the naked eye. I mean, it is gorgeous. You know, if you took a light and shine into one of those geodes and it sparkles in your face, that's why they're beautiful. But it's very beautiful, but it is naturally forming and is not manufactured. What is also interesting, Lieutenant Paris, is you find that this vessel, again, it has these kind of power systems to the weapons. All of the power systems are not going towards anything else other than the geode. So the geode seems to be both defense and offense for this particular vessel.
All right. And does the that geode formation, does that emit something?
Phenomenal question. It is not currently emitting anything.
Okay, sorry. What I mean is, would that be, like, is that how it would emit a weapon? It's not a. What I mean to say is the weapon is not a physical object that's being propelled. It would be an energy.
That is correct. So as you analyze where the geode crystals kind of form, what you realize is that there are these kind of notches. It's a great question. That's a great use of your science officer question, by the way. There are these kind of notches. So imagine it is a kind of a donut around the center. There are these notches where there's these kind of little valleys that you realize kind of look almost like a railgun would, which is very interesting. But it doesn't appear to be a physical object. It's not a material object, but likely where energy could be pooled and then launched in any direction. So it has basically a 360 arc where it could fire this energy beam or this energy weapon in any direction.
With the added information from Lieutenant Paris, could I use my held question?
Absolutely. That's why you held it, man, for sure.
So seeing the configuration of the geode, would there be, now that we know more about it, would we be able to ascertain any weaknesses? Oh, did I say something wrong? Or
No, sorry, it's all Brian's fault.
Oh.
So what was that question again? I completely missed it.
No, yes. So the question would be, can I ascertain some sort of weakness or some design flaw that we could take advantage of, seeing how we have a geode attached to other parts of the ship? Would there be any way to hit it outside of the geode and separate it from the ship?
Perhaps slightly disconcerting. You see no identifiable weaknesses in this geode.
Not for our conventional weapons.
Right. Zed was quickly going to type up all of our findings and transmit them to the rest of the senior staff, so that they can be apprised of it, when they read their reports and such.
Absolutely fantastic. As Ensign Zed finishes his report, the communications officer turns back, Ensign Minerva. She says, Lieutenant Paris, incoming transmission from the doctor, sir. Put it on the main view screen.
Yes, please.
The main view screen pops on. You see that the good doctor once again appears. This time, though, he is not in the same room that he was in before. He appeared to be in a kind of bridge. This time he appears to be standing in a hall, and he's actually walking with a sort of communication device, almost like he's got you on like picture-in-picture on his cellular telephone. He says, yes, I was expecting the captain at this point, but you are also in command of the vessel?
The captain has been summoned and is on his way.
Yes, very well, very well. Should I wait for him, or should I speak with you, Lieutenant Pitts?
If you wish, we can wait. His door is right here. She should be out momentarily, but if you wish to start, I am all ears.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I have instructed my ship to begin docking procedures with yours. Shall I dock on an exterior port, or bring it into a docking bay of sorts?
With the current size of your vessel, unfortunately, we are. It would be too cramped for your vessel to enter our shuttle bay. So, if you would kindly address us, connect to docking port 3, Minerva, the coordinates.
You see him twitch his ears, kind of wrinkle his nose a little bit, opens his teeth wide where you can see these massive, feline fangs on either side. Not really threatening, just more of like a cat when it yawns. It lets out these noises that kind of sound like trills and purring at the same time. And then you hear the occasional word. The only word that the computer universal translator is able to pick up and translate are the following: Frankenstein, extend docking rings. And you see the ship start to maneuver as you have this kind of picture of that ship, and then he himself. You watch as the ship maneuvers, and you watch as the geode, these kind of crystals, start to move. And as they move, they start to kind of congregate on the left-hand side, the port side of the vessel, and this ring that appears to be a docking ring starts to extend as it pulls itself right up next to the Ragnar, whose own little docking ring extends. And then as the geode forms around, it seems to create a perfect seal. The geode crystals themselves are kind of pulsating with this kind of blue, green, purple, sort of this like geode, beautiful kind of like energy. It pulsates for a moment, and then they once again go inert. It appears that the docking is complete. I shall make post haste over to your vessel, and might I say, I look forward to interacting and getting to know all of you.
As do we.
Oh, hello, Captain. It is wonderful to see you as well. Shall I... Wait, that is the question I meant to ask. Is it customary to bring gifts in your species? In your culture, that is?
No. It is not necessary for you to bring us a gift.
Very well, I shall only bring 2. Doctor out.
And then the communication drops and gives you guys
Lieutenant,
a few moments to talk.
Lieutenant, what are the preferential ways that we bring alien species aboard our ships?
Normally, we would have transported him, yes. But I felt that...
And would you like to tell me what it is that made you decide that we would dock with him?
I felt that by docking with him, his technological originality would be...
He wanted a better chance to play with the new toy, Cap.
And I'm presuming that we've had science do a full workup of their atmosphere so that we're not going to get any and how their technology meshes with ours, so we're not going to have any mysterious hiccups in the systems over the next few days, Lieutenant?
Yes.
Cool. I'll expect that report on my panel as soon as I return. Lieutenant Commander Krev, you have the bridge. Zed, you're with me, docking bay 3.
He thinks about protesting, but he says, "Yes, Captain," even though he knows there could be an allergic reaction. But he's going anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely love it. Absolutely, absolutely love it. So we watch as the captain and Ensign Zed head off to the turbo lift. They travel down together. We see Lieutenant Paris hastily beginning his scans and report on the atmosphere as well as the composition of this vessel to ensure that they're not going to conflict with one another, as it were. And as you travel down, you eventually do make your way down to the docking bay, as it were. I'm actually going to bring you guys over to Shuttle Bay 2. Which is the best map I have. I don't actually have a map here. Honestly, I just realized for the docking bay. I never really thought about that. But we can pretend it's this little yellow thing up here, and he's kind of stepping out. Now, as it does this kind of like scan, the computer obviously scans to make sure there's no airborne illnesses, any sort of conflicts. It appears that this species, this sort of feline-like species, known as the Critis, that they appear to breathe a very similar atmosphere to yours. The geodes themselves appear to not be interacting negatively with the ship's exterior metallic frame or anything like that, and everything seems to be going very, very well. A few moments, you can just barely see him through this kind of glass viewport. He has this big cat-like, almost Cheshire-like smile on his face, and he appears to be preening himself. You can kind of see him like lick his paw, do one of these to like push back the hair on his head, make sure it's all flat. It appears like he's trying to get himself together. You see him kind of fix his leatherish jacket, adjust his chain-like medallion on his chest, and you see him waiting. And then as the doors begin to slide open,
Something
Mr.
just real
Zed
quick.
has something to say.
Oh yes. As the captain and Zed enter into the hangar, Zed pauses. He stops before taking a step into the docking bay, and he pulls out a little spray thing, and he liberally sprays all inside of his lobes, like
Love
this,
that.
and then he quickly puts it away, and then he steps up behind the captain.
Traso gives him a look, and then it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, and Mr. Zed, I completely forgot. You stay here by the door. I'll conduct this. Just be ready."
It is just
in case,
Captain. I have faced voracious creatures upon barren planets. I'm certain that a little feline fur will not deter your chief of security, Captain.
At the
I think it'll be
mention of a
fine.
little feline fur, the doors have opened, and Dr. Van Helsing, the kitty cat man, steps forward.
Forgive me, I couldn't help but overhear the conversation. I can assure you that I am completely...
You see him reach down, and he has this kind of like rock geode-like gauntlet that appears to be kind of pulsating and moving, and there's kind of a soft glow coming from it. And he looks at it and he says,
I believe the term is hypoallergenic. You should have no issues with us interacting. It was Zed, was it not?
Yes, and thank you very much for your consideration, Doctor. I've had some allergic difficulties with the other feline crewmen aboard this vessel.
I hope it is not offensive, but I did take the liberty of doing a complete scan to ensure that my ship and your ship would not adversely interact, as well as that our particular species would not have any sort of, that is to say, what is the term? Yes. Allergic reactions between one another.
Quite on the contrary, rather than offensive, I think it was quite considerate of you. Thank you very much.
Very good. Well, perhaps I shall start with the customary greeting of my people.
Zed realizes he's talking a bit too much, and he kind of straightens up and kind of steps back to let the captain.
Should you begin or should I?
Customary greetings, of course. The Ferengi. What did the Ferengi do? I forget. Whether it's something like this.
He does his best to kind of mirror it. Seems a little confused.
Yeah.
As he brings his hands up, you watch as that geode gauntlet seems to traverse and travel back up and sort of disappears underneath his jacket, as though it's almost like it's living, and it kind of like travels up and then it just disappears, and you just see his long arms, this kind of like fur thing, and he says,
very good. This, and Captain, is there something that your species does as well?
Yes, but it's not appropriate in these particular circumstances. There's a touching of minds, but unfortunately neither of us is capable of. So we'll just go with the human handshake. And the captain sticks his hand out.
He takes his fur clawed hand. You see that he has some decent sized claws at the end of his fingers. As he reaches out, you notice them visibly retract inside. It's very similar to like a feline's paw would. And he gingerly kind of grabs it. It's a firm, but not a harsh handshake. And he shakes it up and down.
Very well. I suppose it is now my turn.
He moves forward.
Just stand still there, Captain. Perhaps this will be a bit jarring, but
he sort of grabs your shoulders and then very, very slowly, not aggressively, takes his face and rubs it against you. Does both sides.
Yeah.
And then lets this kind of like
kind of trill. And then he moves over to Zed and he says, I think this will be all right. And then he kind of slowly moves forward. If you begin to itch, please let me know right away. And he says a very soft little kind of like his whiskers, just kind of like tap your cheeks. And then he like recoils back. Feeling adversely at all? And Zed,
Not at all, thank you.
brilliant. Then we can do the full ceremony. And then he grabs you again and just rubs against your face, just like gets real in there. It tickles your lobes and you feel like a little tingle, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. I suppose, if I may be so bold, should we begin with a tour of your vessel? Sharing of ideas and information? I am open and at your leisure, Captain Traso.
Certainly, I know my engineering team will be very interested to hear what you have to say about how your technology works. So let's start at the bridge and work our way down.
Sounds absolutely delightful.
Mr. Zed, if you'll lead on.
Of course, Captain. This way, if you will, Doctor.
If I may, as well, Captain, as you all begin to exit the docking area, you head into the hallway. He is like an excited cat. He's just looking at everything, taking everything in. Every so often, you'll see this geode-like thing come down. He'll speak into it. Normally, it's these kind of trills. The Universal Translator has trouble identifying them. You'll catch occasional words, things like power systems seem to function this way, crew is of many different species. All of it just seems to be very mundane observations, as though he's literally just taking everything in, trying to analyze, trying to understand, trying to discover what you guys are. But again, the Universal Translator, and you're picking up that it's almost as though he's having a conversation with whatever this thing is that's on his arm. It seems to travel. Occasionally you'll see it kind of come up his neck. He'll speak into it. It comes down. But it is like this, almost this kind of like blob thing that is like moving around on him. It'll form into like a gauntlet for a little bit. Then it goes up to like a necklace. You'll see it interact with this chain. Now, to describe the symbol around him, the symbol itself, there's this kind of rusted chain. But the symbol itself is actually a small green geode. And it's turned inward on him. And it moves ever so slightly. It sways. But ever so often you'll see it kind of move up. And there's this kind of soft, light green glow from inside that geode. It just kind of does a little pulse up and down, this light green geode. As you're traveling down the hallway, he actually begins to ask some questions. Captain, if I may press upon you for some more information, how many different species are aboard your vessel? I find it fascinating simply because my kind tends to be more solitary in their adventures. Well, not to say adventures, but in their destinations. We tend to only congregate for procreation and the occasional festival.
Well, humans are a communal species, and they've impressed those values of community and cooperation upon many of the rest of the galaxy as we know it. There are roughly 23, between 20 and 23 species at any given time on the Ragnar. I believe at the moment we're at 23, but personnel changes can change that fairly quickly.
And my species is a very mercantile species. We spread our economic efforts across the quadrants, interacting with many different species on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned that, you see this kind of almost confused look cross his face at the mention of mercantile.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned mercantile, his ears twitch, tilts his head to the side, doesn't seem to quite register with him. You watch as that geode-like structure comes up, kind of almost forms a kind of cone around. You see him nod again, and then it crawls back down. He says, "The term is money?"
Yes. The Ferengi are quite preoccupied with the idea of money. However, I am an atypical member of my species. I am a Federation member, and monetary concerns are secondary to our culture.
My species does not, well, that is to say, deal in money. Everything is about the information that you can share, stories and tales of your exploits. that is a currency that we choose to deal business in, if you could even call it business. It is more a desire to know, understand, seek, explore. Not, I believe, unlike this Federation that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. That does fall right in line with our values.
You continue on, get closer, and eventually to the turbolift. He continues to ask questions about the Federation. None of them are too prying, just simply, how long has it been in existence? What is its main goal? Is it a warlike species? Are you more on exploration? And just go kind of like back and forth. And he's just, again, like an excited cat, just seeking to understand how everything works. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you arrive on the bridge. We see Ensign Zed. Lieutenant Commander Krev has come up to the bridge as well. And as he looks around, he makes eye contact with everyone, kind of does that like cat blinking thing where it's like acknowledging that he sees you and it's okay for you to approach. But then he looks where Commander Ajay would normally be sitting.
Disappointing. I was hoping that, and again, forgive me if this was rude, Captain, but I did allow Frankenstein to do a full scan of your ship's crew and complement, and I am to understand that you do as well have a doctor aboard. In fact, several doctors, and some that you call lesser doctors? No, that's not the right term. Nurses, I believe was the term.
Yeah, so we'll include sickbay on the tour, but Dr. Ajay is down attending to a crew member.
Good. Sick crew member? Are they ill?
Honestly, I'm not sure at the moment. They were showing adverse signs, and so the doctor took her down to do a full workup, I imagine.
His tail starts to flick back and forth, almost agitatedly. You see that as his tail starts to flick, the Cation ensign, who's at the bridge, Enna, has turned around and her eyes have kind of like narrowed, the cat's eyes like narrow, and she's staring at him quite intently. It almost looks like intrigue, maybe a little bit of desire. You're not sure. But he is ignoring. He hasn't seen her, but he is flicking his tail back and forth.
If I may, Captain, and I don't mean to be pressing and rude. I've said that already. What are her symptoms, if I may ask?
I wouldn't be comfortable sharing that sort of information, but if we go down to sickbay, the crewmen themselves may be willing to speak with you.
Yes. And what department was she from, Captain?
She was a security officer, isn't that right, Mr. Zed?
That is correct, Captain.
Interesting. Has she been in any close contact with any particular ore or gemstones, geodes, any sort of strange rocks or minerals of recent?
You know what, Doctor? I think it sounds like we should make sickbay our next stop. So if you want to step back into the turbo lift, we can head there now.
Yes. And this was the Lieutenant Commander Krev?
Indeed, yes.
When you have a moment, Lieutenant Commander Krev, I hope to have an extended stay with you. I'd like to discuss how I could potentially increase the output of your warp core by 25%.
25%?
Yes, the way in which you are transferring power is quite inefficient, but to be understood as you have not interacted with the stones.
The stones.
The minute he tries to tell Krev that his power systems are inefficient, the captain starts to try and shuffle him into the turbo.
Doesn't resist, just follows along and goes,
yes, it'll be a quite delightful situation. I believe that you and I can share some...
The door closes.
I wouldn't listen to him, Commander. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Clearly, like stones? Like, what's that?
I mean, if he can boost our power by 25%, I'll
Deck
take
5.
Absolutely. And as you guys travel down to deck 5, I'd actually like to travel on over to the sick bay, where Commander Ajay, you actually have a couple of patients. There are a number of crew members that have been complaining about tingling sensations, limbs and appendages kind of falling asleep, as well as just uncomfortable urges. And I'm going to let you kind of dig into what these particular uncomfortable urges are. But we're going to pick up with you and the hologram, the hologram together inside. Actually, let's do Nurse Hagen. We haven't seen Nurse Hagen in a while. That's who we're gonna have here. Nurse Hagen, Lieutenant Paris's friend. I assume things are going well.
Friend.
Are they official yet? Is it out in the public? Are they official? Okay, they're official.
This has been official
Lieutenant
for a long
Paris and
time.
Lieutenant Paris's boyfriend.
People are waiting for the proposal and everything.
Yes,
They've been official for like over a year.
Sure, I want to presume. I don't know. It's been like you guys have been together like 2-3 years. Everyone's waiting, especially Nurse Hagen. But I digress. Especially Nurse Hagen, who's like, when is he gonna pop the question? When is he gonna pop the question? But we're actually gonna pick up here as well. And we're actually going to have a couple of different ensigns inside sitting on the beds here. And let me just grab them for us really quick. But Hagen, actually, you've had a moment. You guys are running a couple of quick scans on some of these crew members that you have before you. And Hagen has become a little bit more, I don't want to say lax, but a little bit more relaxed with you these days. And as you guys are working on, you're waiting for the computer to run its scan in this moment. He leans in and he says, Commander Ajay, I wanted to ask, in your culture and society, how long is too long to wait?
For what, Nurse Hagen?
He gives you this kind of side eye that says you know what I'm talking about.
Ah, you're referring to Lieutenant Paris.
Yes. We've been seeing each other now for 3 years, and, well, hoping he'd tie the knot at some point. I'm beginning to think maybe he just isn't that interested.
I can assure you he's interested. However, humans, they sometimes have these weird hang-ups about when they can get married compared to their careers. It's possible he's waiting until he's promoted for to something.
I don't care what his promotion level is. I just care that he loves me. I mean, in my particular species, we get married day one. Love at first sight, as it were. I think that's the human term.
It's, as I said, humans sometimes have strange cultural hang-ups, because I know some who get married at first sight and some who apparently never get married.
Never get married?
Usually people who aren't in relationships, Mr. Hagen, you have nothing to be concerned about.
Ooh! And he lets out a sigh of relief. As he lets out a sigh of relief, the good Vulcan that is inside there with you, the engineering Vulcan, Lieutenant the junior grade to par, starts to kind of let out this Doctor, I am starting to feel not quite myself, Doctor.
Lieutenant?
I am feeling slightly agitated, and I don't often feel much of anything. Doctor, could you perhaps prescribe me a sedative, Doctor?
Right away, Lieutenant. Hold on. And Ajay will go over and hypo.
As you get close to this Vulcan, to Lieutenant Junior Grade, but you get close to the Lieutenant Junior Grade to par, you notice that her features seem slightly different than from just a few moments ago when you were running scans on her, that you could run everything through the system. You notice that her ears seem even more pronounced. These kind of Vulcan ears seem even longer than they did before, and they seem to have slightly curled in on themselves. On top of that, you notice that as she is speaking, her canines appear also a bit more pronounced than they did a few moments ago as well.
Yep. Cool.
Her complexion seems a bit lighter than it did before. As you look over at the other officer that is inside here, the Miss Nevek that is here, you notice that her features also seem slightly pronounced as well. Each of them are just seeming very uncomfortable and itchy right now.
Well, Nevik should still be sedated because I'm not letting her wake up.
Yeah, she's not seeming as sedated as she was. She is stirring this moment right now.
All right. Well, let's sedate Tapar first.
Give me a controlled medicine on this one. Difficulty of 2.
I'm gonna spend one of our momentum to roll 3d20.
6, 20. You have so many momentum.
Yeah, that's why I'm spending one. Focus. Would triage or xenobiology be acceptable to you?
Xenobiology would work. I'll allow it. Say 3 successes. As you reach out to apply the hypospray, get close. Her right hand flashes right up, grabbing your wrist. Squeezes very, very hard. What are you doing, Doctor?
What you requested.
Yes, of course. What I requested.
You see her look at your wrist, and her eyes fixate on your wrist. Her mouth starts to open a little bit wider as you slowly push in and get the hyperspray to her neck. You see her mouth close, then open, as you hear that noise, the hypospray. Her hand still gripping your wrist very, very tightly. A moment later, it starts to loosen. Her eyes start to become a little darker, a little more closed. Very slowly, she leans back, falling unconscious on the table. Nurse Hagen gets close. The computer has completed its... what happened? She's unconscious. Why are her ears like that? And
we're going to need to rerun the scans.
Are those
Nurse
fangs?
Hagen, I need more sedatives. Miss Nevik's stirring, and I suspect that Miss Tapar will not long be unconscious with this sedative, since it was meant for a Vulcan and not for whatever is affecting them. And I suspect every other patient in our med bay exhibiting these symptoms is about to need more of it as well.
There are half a dozen in the med bay right now that are experiencing these symptoms. And Nurse Hagen calls to one of the other nurses, says, we're going to need a lot of sedatives. And as they say that, the captain, as well as Ensign Zed and the good doctor arrive in the medical bay. And Captain, Ensign Zed, you guys take it away, and we'll take it from there.
Commander Ajay, this is our guest, Dr. Van Helsing. He expressed some concern over the symptoms that the patients were just describing. So I brought him down here so that perhaps he could consult.
Before Commander Ajay can say anything, he says,
Yes, Commander Ajay. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. A doctor like yourself. A viewer, a collector of information and data. I have always not intrigued, that's the wrong term. What was the term again? Yes. I've always enjoyed meeting other doctors. If you would allow me to analyze your patients.
To what purpose, Dr. Van Helsing?
I believe they may be infected with a particular illness that is common in these parts. What was the name of the last planet you visited?
You'll have to forgive me, it's been some time. We don't tend to hit a lot of planets.
It was called Vanar.
Vanar.
His expression turns almost horrified in this moment.
How long were you on the planet? How many of the species did you interact with? Were any of them showing symptoms of illness or troublesome? Did any of them bite you? Quick,
I
I don't
believe
have all day. This is very important. This is the
your
first time,
pardon.
first time that he's actually seemed angry in this moment.
Doctor, perhaps you could explain to us what the danger is, rather than berating my medical staff.
His expression softens. It seems to turn from this kind of anger into this kind of, well, apologeticness. He's sad.
Forgive me, Captain. There is a illness that is common to these parts. It is often goes unnoticed until it becomes...
And he looks down with this kind of sad, very depressive look down at the two people laying on the beds.
Until it becomes too late. I believe we have caught this in time, however. I'm not sure what the term is in your society. Give me a moment to consult with Frankenstein. Yes. Mm-hmm. Sound right? Doesn't roll off the tongue quite well. Are you sure?
You see the stone, this kind of geode is glowing, almost as though it's speaking with him, making these different colors.
Are you quite positive? You think there's still time? That's so far away. The ship is too slow to get there in that amount of time. No, I understand it. I know you could integrate with it, but they probably don't want you to do that. I understand. Yes, I understand. Likely the survival of the crew is... Okay, stop arguing with me. You're so rude sometimes. Very well. Unfortunately, I believe they've been infected with a kind of vampirism, I suppose is the term. Within the next week, they will wish to feast upon the blood of their colleagues.
How transmissible is this disease?
It tends to be only transmissible if you become in direct contact with the virus. The actual carriers themselves can transmit it through... Yes, I understand. Yes, I get it. I'm going to tell them. Stop being so pushy. Sorry. Yes, so it can be transmitted through bite as well as claws.
And as he says claws, his claws extend. As he says bite, he opens his mouth wide to kind of make this chomping noise to add a little extra effect to it. Also cast backward, and Vesper, just want to say, guys, thanks for the follow. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Computer, initiate quarantine procedures. Doctor, I'll initiate the emergency medical hologram so that we can continue to attend to these patients without having to interact with them directly.
Of course, Captain. If all of you will step out this way so we can go with the quarantine procedures in this examination room.
Yes, and of course, if worse comes to worse, a stake directly to their heart, if they have one, will also end them completely.
And he says this almost delightedly, he's kind of excited about it, but it's not an aggressive statement.
Right, yeah.
We'll consider that as a last resort, Dr. Van Helsing.
Very well. Well, I suppose if they're in quarantine, I should explain to you that we must return back to this planet and find the source of their illness. The, what is the term? Patient zero, I believe it would be called.
And, what do we do with patient zero?
Traso looks delighted. He's like, wait, the head vampire?
Yes, that is correct. We must find the head vampire, we must slay him, and then from his blood we'll be able to synthesize an antidote to revert these particular infectees back to their normal selves. Again, Captain, we have but a week before they are fully transformed.
And it's irreversible once they're fully transformed?
Yes, unfortunately, their entire genetic code would be changed and would resist any sort of change back to their original. Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah, Krev here. Yeah, that's me. Sorry.
How can the shields be extended around the doctor's ship?
Yeah.
Oh, not necessary, Captain. My ship can operate fully automatically by itself. Also, I believe this would be a good time for me to meet with your Lieutenant Commander Krev inside of the main engineering, if you have one. I believe my ship scans did pick up a main engineering, at which point I can help them increase power by 25%.
Right. Set course for the Vinar system. Full warp capability, whatever that is. You're messing with the power systems enough. I never know what our
If I may,
top speed
Captain,
is.
if you would belay that, I'll need roughly 30 minutes in engineering to make my upgrades to your vessel.
Can you not make them while we're at speed?
I could, but it could also... Set? We should just get going now? Yes, Frankenstein says it'll be fine.
Okay, good. Yes, set course for Planet Banar's maximum warp. Also, Lieutenant Commander, the good doctor is requesting that you meet him in main engineering.
Yeah, I heard.
Please don't kill him.
I mean, if he can boost our power by 25%, I'll buy him dinner.
Oh, that is actually something I wish to discuss with you. What do your species eat? Mine tends to be more of a carnivore, but we do enjoy a good salad now and again. Also fish. There's lots of different types of fish species in the galaxy. And as he says this, you guys start ushering him out. He just keeps talking. And every time you're interacting with him, if he gets on a tangent, he just starts sharing a lot of these names that the Universal Translator sometimes struggles with, sometimes comes up with names for, of all these different things. You are getting the impression that this feline creature has traveled all over at least the Shackleton, perhaps even farther, and has discovered a plethora of things. And it's just like an information collector. He's like a walking library in this moment. But as he heads down, we're going to head back down into main engineering.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Krev enters in the, has the pilot in the course, and then just leaves, and as the turbo lift doors are closing, he's like, "Oh yeah, bridge is yours, Paris."
Absolutely delightful. So as you head back down to main engineering, you arrive right about the same time as the captain, and I believe Ensign Zed, you'd be still accompanying them as well on this.
Yes,
trip? Perfect.
And Zed will be asking the doctor, did you say that we must use lethal force on patient 0? Is there no way to extract the biological matter that we need without killing the patient?
Unfortunately, no. Once they have completely transformed into the vampire, they are beyond saving. Believe me, I have tried. Many of my species has fallen to this particular disease, and I made it my kind of life's work to try to find some sort of cure for it, but unfortunately at this moment and up to this point, the only cure I have found is, and he does this kind of slow drag, termination.
Meanwhile, Traso is talking to Shahira over the communicator, and he's like, in about 20 minutes, I'll make a certain file available to you, but this sounds very much like a situation I know about from Gora R5X. It was a Section 31 process, so you'll only have access to these files for a very brief amount of time, but there was a vampiric infestation there as well. So that you may be able to determine some intermediary methods based on the methods they used in that situation. So I'll have those files available to you.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So as you get down to the bridge, the doctor walks in, takes a look around, puts his hands on his hips, like he's just taking it all in. He goes, I must say, I was expecting this to be a bit more archaic, but the purple tones are quite beautiful. And as he mentions the purple tones, you see that the geodes have kind of formed this almost collar around him, and they're kind of glowing this kind of purple that is matching the same color that your own warp core is showing. And I must say that Frankenstein also finds them quite appealing. Was this work done yourself, Lieutenant Commander Zeb? Not Zeb, you're Krev, that's the one. Yes, sorry. Your names are all quite strange.
Yes, I did the hollow carving inside the crystalline matrix myself.
Is absolutely fantastic. Quite interesting that you did that. Did you also make the phase positronic frequency regulator, or did you prefer to activate the secondary baryon conversion coil?
No, I had to modify the macroscopic ionic distortion sustainer to to recalibrate the oscillating neutrino distortion manifold.
But of course, and that allowed you to synchronize the polar resonating gradient coupling, which allowed you to increase the power and invert the primary subspace harmonic. Harmonic.
Of course, I had to refocus the multiphasic neutrino distortion coupling, which obviously improved and allowed me to amplify the emergency neutrino distortion dampener.
Oh, and of course, that allowed us to intensify the multivariant neutrino flux regulator. So, I mean, there was that as well.
This goes on for an awkward amount of time back and forth, and it's not a competition. It's just like they're in the zone, and
absolutely
I imagine
nerding.
They're just nerding out, and like his tail's flicking all happily. He's asking, like he's getting excited. You're getting excited. He's talking about things, and as he's doing this, this geode that's around his neck that's formed this kind of like necklace is glowing and glowing and glowing. And we get to a point where he starts to talk about how he can help improve your power. And he starts to ask you questions, Lieutenant Commander Krev, about, where are the main power supply systems? Where does the power get taken from the warp core and sent out to the ship? That's where he needs to go. And he is very respectful. He's walking you through everything he needs to do. But what it boils down to is that he actually needs to take this Frankenstein, which is what he calls this geode on his arm, and integrate it with your ship. This will not be a permanent increase to your ship's power, but it would allow the geode to interface with the ship and to give some of its power to the vessel and help amplify what you already have. He does a phenomenal job of explaining everything to you. However, it starts to become, and I think this is maybe a little awkward for Lieutenant Krev, it actually starts to become a little bit even beyond your expertise. What I'm going to have you do is roll reason engineering difficulty of 4 to see if you can get through the muck and understand exactly what he's trying to do.
Can I assist? Because I have a focus on experimental technology.
He is so far beyond you at this moment, Captain, that you cannot assist. This is pure engineering babble that you've been way too far away from. This is beyond you.
Can I use my...
Look at his face! He's like, hey, remember how you said if you don't do stuff for a long time, you forget some of it? Just a call back to that, my man. You're like, damn, I should know this, but it's beyond me. Go ahead, Lieutenant Commander Krause.
Can I use my improvisation?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So we are doing engineering and... Hold on, let me start this over again.
Insight engineering, difficulty of 4.
I think you said reason.
Reason engineering, difficulty of 4, yes.
Don't forget the moment.
Zed would like to do a roll after Krev, if you will allow it.
I will definitely allow that. I love when my players roll stuff.
Submit. And I'm going to, I'm going to use...
Oh, the momentum.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to 4 dice. Focus, yes.
Oh, beautiful. Lieutenant Commander Krev, for a moment, for the briefest of moments, Dr. Van Helsing, the kitty cat man himself, starts to lose you. But you don't give up. You don't allow yourself in this moment to become frustrated as you often have in the past. Instead, perhaps there is this kind of brotherhood-like feeling you have. This person who just loves learning and loves exploring and tinkering and just getting his hands dirty. While he's explaining it to you, he is near stuff. He's pointing it out. He is talking with his hands. It's almost like you're back in class and you're learning from your professors, and it's just knowledge. You're learning from each other, and you catch on to it. What you learn is that these geodes that he has been interacting with are a kind of symbiotic species that connects with his species. It's kind of similar to the, and I'm blanking out on it, but there's that symbiotic species, the trill, right?
The trill, yeah.
The trill. It's similar to that, but instead of the trill personality kind of taking over, the Frankenstein, the geode species, literally connects with one. It's kind of a friendship, a bond that they create, and they live together for the entirety of their lives. When the host dies, so too does the geode, save for one small crystal that is oftentimes passed on to a next of kin. This particular species, you learn, generally only has one child per couple and is a slowly dying species. There's very few of them left. Actually, only about 100 of his particular species left in the galaxy, each traveling around in this type of geode-like vessel, gathering knowledge that once the final of this species is alive, they plan to create a massive library of sorts with these geodes and put all knowledge that their species gathered over their lifetimes into it for any and all to use. But the geodes themselves are both intelligent, alive, both give power and can help transmit and amplify power. And what he is suggesting to do is to integrate his geode both with the ship's computer and the ship's power system so that it can help amplify both and thus increase the speed and the power of the vessel. Based on his explanation, there should be no issues with the integration.
And as I said, there should be no issues with the integration. But of course, Lieutenant Commander Krev, I would defer to your expertise as this ship is your vessel.
And he makes an emphasis of saying your vessel as he does so.
Krev.
I see you, Ensign said.
Krev has been kind of poking with his tricorder and taking, with permission, if he would give it, taking readings of the geode, and as he finishes and says, "My ship," it's my ship. Krev kind of chuckles, takes like one last reading and looks over at the captain and says, "Should work, no problem."
Ensign said you wanted to do something.
So as all of this is as the suggestions are taking place, Zed is starting to get just a slight tingle of suspicion in his lobes. This stranger that we've just met, everything just for a second is just seeming too convenient, and now he wants to interface directly in. So Zed kind of wants to step back just a moment, and if possible, use insight plus something to kind of get a read on this guy. And I also have the trait hear all, trust nothing, which will increase the difficulty of any social conflict to deceive the character.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
So
in this case, I'm going to have it decrease the difficulty. The difficulty would normally be a 3. It's going to go down to a 2. And what I'm going to have you do is roll an insight security. And what focuses do you have?
I have investigation.
I would take that. Absolutely.
All right. Let's see what we have here.
That momentum.
Let's see if my
momentum.
Use that momentum.
Oh yeah. So how many momentum do you think I should use?
3. Give yourself 2 extra dice, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
Oh yeah. Get after it.
To cover the embarrassment of not understanding what's going on, the captain's like, "All right, well, Krev, if you feel like it'll work, I'll be on the bridge." He's just like,
He's gonna bolt.
Bye.
Love that.
Yeah, no problem.
Ensign said, you are watching him. You see him excited, and you realize that you're tingling in your lobes. Tingling in your lobes is actually traveling down, and it's starting to tingle in your extremities as well. And you're starting to feel kind of hungry. And as you have those kind of pronounced Ferengi fangs, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you run your tongue along the fangs, kind of feels like they're a little more extended than they were this morning. You feel your ears, and they feel a little bit more pointy than they do curved and large, and you're feeling a little angry and hungry right now.
Captain.
Captain is gone.
Oh, the captain's gone.
You don't realize it. You go to turn to him, and he's gone.
Commander Krev.
Ensign.
I think perhaps that I should excuse myself. I'm feeling a bit tingly in the lobes.
As the doctor
Tingly.
turns and looks towards you, his eyes go wide like a surprised cat. Oh dear. Lieutenant Commander Krev, would you call your good Dr. Ajay down here? Unfortunately, I think Ensign Zed has been infected.
I concur. Zed to Ajay.
Krev to Ajay?
Krev to Ajay.
Ajay here.
Looks like we got another one, Doc.
I'll have two people up there in a moment to bring them down to quarantine.
Yeah, it's Zed.
The doctor actually takes a few paces forward, looking Zed directly in the eyes, and as he does so, the geode kind of forms this sort of scan. You see this light. He kind of moves it over, and he goes, "Well, that's interesting. Fascinating. Ensign Zed, are you feeling hungry, desire, the need to drain the blood of your friends currently?"
I currently have the impulse to grab that geode and smash it on the floor.
Fascinating. Usually it's not an anger against rocks, but an anger against... Interesting. What's that?
I think I was thinking back at a prior incident.
Ah, yes. Sometimes the illness does bring back past traumas and fears and brings them up in strange ways, but what is fascinating is that it seems that your particular physiology is resisting the change. Based on my readings here, you should have already converted into a vampire. And yet, you are just now starting to show signs.
Well, I do have 4 cerebral lobes.
Fascinating. Lieutenant Commander Krev, could you let the doctor know that I'd like to run a full diagnostic on this Ensign Zed here? I think there may be perhaps... I don't want to get my hopes up. First, we must get the ship moving quickly.
Emergency transport Zed to medical bay.
A few moments later, Zed turns into a blue bit of light, disappears before everyone.
Krev relays the Dr. Van Helsing's request.
I will keep that in mind.
And as you relay the request, Dr. Van Helsing comes up, looks at Karev and says,
"Forgive me, Karev, I forgot to do the standard greeting, if you would allow me."
Standard greeting?
Grabs your shoulders, rubs his cheek against your cheek, rubs his other cheek against your cheek, leans back, releases, and says,
"I'm very much going to look forward to working with you."
And with that, my friends, that is where we will end episode 1 of Star Trek Valhalla, Dr. Van Helsing, to pick up in 2 weeks. With episode 2. But hopefully you guys had an absolute blast. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful to be back with everybody. I wanted to say a special thank you to Vesper and Cast Backward for the subs. Always a pleasure to get some more folks, or not for subs, but the follows. If you are catching this on YouTube, don't forget to drop a like and a follow. Those likes and follows definitely help the algorithm and get my content out, our content out to more people, which hopefully brings more people in. And it's just fun to have people watching. We're trying to tell fun stories, make you laugh, make you feel good, maybe even make you cry sometimes. But with that being said, as is tradition in all of our games, any final thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up today's episode?
Not here.
Tons of fun.
But it's
Glad
always
to
said
be
at the end of
back
every...
among the stars.
It is wonderful to be back among the stars. Absolutely, Charles. But as I always say at the end of every episode, thank you so much to the players for playing. This is the beginning of our 3rd season. We've played 20 episodes together, and it's been an absolute blast. I'm very excited for what I have planned for this season, and I'm also excited to see where you take it. Thank you so much to the viewers for viewing. It's always fun to have you guys chatting. We had a bunch of chat going on here today, which just makes it even more enjoyable. Happy gaming, everybody. We will catch you back here in 2 weeks. Just to let everyone know, I'll be off this upcoming week on a quick vacation with me and the missus, so excited about that. But then I'll be returning next week for, the week after that, for episode 2 of season 3. But in the meantime, be well, be safe, and again, happy gaming. Good night, everybody.